Hello and welcome to Alaska's Political Pipeline. I'm political reporter Wil Courtney, and today we're going to do something a little bit different again. We're going to be taking you inside of a press scrum where we got the chance after an Anchorage brunch to speak with Senator Lisa Murkowski, and we spoke on a number of different topics, but one of the key ones that you're going to hear from is about those Affordable Care Act credits, those Obamacare enhanced premium tax credits that have been covering a lot of our coverage over the last few weeks. That's because these are critical for 28,000 Alaskans. That's about 4% of the population. That, and we also get to hear a little bit about what she thinks of the legality of that double tap boat strike off the Caribbean that has been covered in controversy, specifically over Defense Secretary Hegseth, who, according to the Washington Post, gave a kill everybody order on that boat. Let's take a listen to our conversation with Senator Lisa Murkowski.
Iris, I'll look at Iris.
So I wanted to ask for a little bit more clarification on the Affordable Care Act subsidies.
Yep.
I'm curious what you personally think about the proposal of extending them for 3 years and what you think is possible to get support for among Senate Republicans.
Yeah. So the Democrats have laid down the Senate Democrats have laid down a 3-year clean extension. I have advocated for a short-term extension. I've said everything from 1 year to 3 year, but with every time I've mentioned the extension, I've also acknowledged that we're going to have to do some level of reforms for the subsidy program itself. We just saw a recent GAO report come out that showed where some of the flaws are, where people can abuse the system. We don't want to do that. So if we're going to extend this, let's address that. I happen to think it's only reasonable that we have some level of income caps. We used to have that prior to the enhanced premium tax credits. Now that cap has been lifted. I think most Americans would say, if you're making $350,000 a year, you probably don't need the government support to help you with your insurance. If you're making $100,000 and you're paying $36,000 a year for your insurance, you're exactly the type of family that we're talking about here. And so some type of income caps. This is something where there is bipartisan support. I think that you're going to see that come forward in what I hope will be a bipartisan proposal. So here's what I am anticipating this next week. The Democrats will ask for a vote on their 3-year straight extension. It will not get 60 votes. The Republicans are going to lay down some alternative. It is not yet defined what that is. Now, the fact that we are literally less than a week out, we don't know what the Republican alternative is, doesn't bode very well for its political success. So what you're going to have is towards the end of the week, you're going to have 2 failures. That's not going to help the Alaskan family that is looking at this extraordinary spike, almost 1/3 of their income going towards insurance premiums. That's not going to help them. That's not going to satisfy them. And so I have been urging not only Republicans, but my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, as well as working with House members, bipartisan as well, that once we demonstrate what we can't do, we got to fix it, folks. And that's going to require a compromise. I think we have two tracks that we've got to address. The first is the most pressing one, and that is at the end of this year, in literally 3 weeks, people are going to be seeing these increases become real. We need to keep that from happening. And so a short-term extension is going to be required. We need to address that, put some limited reforms on. You're probably not going to be able to get much in year 1, but in year 2, you can put those on. If we go to 3-year extension, that can be workable, but you've got to have some reforms. The other track that we have to address is the broader challenge, which is how do we reduce the cost of overall care? Not premiums, not the insurance, not the deductible, but the overall cost of care. Because once we can address that, everybody's going to benefit. And we're not going to be able to pull that together in a week or in 2 weeks. That's going to take good committee work. That's going to take thoughtful work across both sides. Senator Cassidy, who's chairman of the Help Committee, is already working that. We had a hearing just on Wednesday, theoretically focused on what we can do to reduce the overall cost of care and affordability. We got a long way to go, but this is a scenario that I see playing out. My effort between now and the time that we break is to make sure we don't leave Alaskans and Americans hanging with this cliff approaching us on the subsidies. It's going to be tough to get a compromise, but we owe it to them. And my hope is that the administration sees that not only is this not right for Americans, it's a political liability for them as well. So let's figure this out. Let's get it resolved. Let's get a short-term fix and then focus on the long-term affordability of overall health care and access to care.
I want to ask a follow-up question on long-term front. I heard from the CEO of Primera of Alaska, who told me that when it comes to the cost drivers of health insurance in Alaska, one of the biggest cost drivers is the cost of drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that we've heard under the previous administration kind of a call for greater involvement in the federal government negotiating down those costs. I'm curious if you think that that's something, that's an area that Congress could theoretically have a role in. So where do you stand on that?
It's something that I've been encouraging us to do, whether it's a Biden administration or whether it's a Trump administration, use the power of the government to reduce down the cost of these drugs. I mean, we're starting to see this right now. One of the big drivers of costs when you're looking at specific drugs are these weight loss drugs. They're bringing about incredible benefits to individuals, and they're reducing their overall cost of care, but they're expensive. And so now the government is coming in and is negotiating prices for these weight loss drugs for instance, within the Medicaid program. You can use these examples to help address some of these spiraling costs. We've had some really good hearings in the Help Committee on this. We also need to be looking at what they call the pharmacy benefit managers, and the benefit that goes to the middleman rather than going to the individual consumer or to the drug manufacturer themselves. So there are some very identified ways that we can reduce the cost of pharmaceutical drugs. Negotiating price is one, but some of these middlemen cost drivers are also something we can be addressing. This is one of the issues that we're dealing with right now with the subsidies, is these enhanced premium tax credits are not going direct from the government to you, the consumer. They're going to the insurance company. So the insurance company is taking their 20% off the top, and you're getting yours, but you're getting 20% less. The argument that we're seeing is, don't give it to the insurance company, give it to the individual, allow them to have that full benefit. So these are some of the things that we're talking about.
Do you think that, as Trump has proposed, the idea of giving money directly to consumers will actually, rather than to the health insurance companies, will actually impact in the long term the price of health insurance?
Well, what they're talking about are the health savings accounts. And this is something that we've had a lot of experience and practice. People, when they are managing their own money for their health benefits, they're a comparative shopper, right? And we see the value that comes then when the individual consumer can effectively negotiate and bargain. Will it bring costs down? I think we see that it helps the consumer be able to feel more in control of their healthcare choices. But what is ultimately going to make the difference is when the providers themselves see that their services are not being taken up on by the consumer because maybe I've priced myself out of business here. Maybe I need to be looking at what we're charging here. So the health savings account is something that I think there is real value to what is being proposed right now with giving more support directly to the individual to, again, make those health choices with the dollars that are provided directly to them.
Will? Yeah, Senator, I actually want to ask about the boat strikes, but just to follow up a little bit on Iris's question, you've said you want a short-term solution. Can you quantify short-term? Is this 6 months? Is this a year?
No, it can't be 6 months. One of the things that happens is we're now in this period called open enrollment, right? People are making decisions on their health care, and it comes around once a year. It comes around based on rates that have been set within each state. During the summer months, it's all, they have their calculations about what are fair and reasonable rates, and then it posts towards the end of the year. So it really requires a level of review ahead of time. This is why I'm suggesting that it's going to be hard to put in place reforms to the subsidy program in year one, because we're already effectively into year one. I have suggested, I actually had my proposal was a 2-year proposal as opposed to year one. Year one is just going to put this decision into the thick of the politics of elections next year. So nobody was interested in 1 year. 2 year seemed to be something where there was a lot of common ground. There are some who say, well, let's do 3 years so that it gets on the other side of the full Trump administration. So there's some in the administration that kind of like that idea because they don't want to have to reckon with this again. But the challenge that we have with the Democrats' proposal is that it is a straight extension, no reforms at all. If you could give me a 3-year extension with a path for reforms, I think we can make this work.
Yeah. So in that way, does the 3-year proposal, you've said it doesn't have the votes, but your vote, do you plan on supporting it or no?
Well, my vote.
Yes, for that Senate proposal that we'll be seeing next week.
So again, there's going to be 2. I don't know what the Republican proposal is going to be, so I can't speak to that. I know some of the contents from folks that have put things forward in the confidence of our caucus. I don't want to have to vote for a straight extension without any reforms. But if I'm in a situation where it is a straight extension with no reforms or nothing, I don't know what I tell people who are absolutely panicked that they're going to be looking at a $30,000 price tag for their insurance for them and their family. I mean, they need us to fix this. So what I'm trying to do, I want to try to get us to a 60-vote measure that we can actually pass into law. There is nobody that I'm talking to that says, I just want you to vote on a messaging bill. They want us to fix it. And so, well, I might support a 3-year extension straight with no add-ons or no reforms. It's going to be a messaging vote because it won't get the 60 votes. Yeah. So I got to figure out how we get from that and the Republican alternative into the solution in the middle.
Yeah, and just two more.
Okay.
Let's kick to Jeff first, but then I can.
Sure. Okay.
We'll go back to you.
Yeah, I'm just curious on this these boats from South America.
Yeah.
Mark Bowden wrote a book about the operation to kill Pablo Escobar, and George H.W. Bush sent the CIA, the military, the special forces, and there was a lot of people who are running drugs getting killed. I mean, do you think the government has a right to stop these? I mean, I think that 100,000 fentanyl deaths a year. It's they're bringing bad stuff in here. Should they be able to stop them?
There is absolutely authority to intercept drugs that are coming into this country. We see it every day with the Coast Guard. This is kind of their job out there. When you take it to a military war on drugs approach, I think this is where, in using your military to do this, this is where it is a different scenario than what we see play out on a daily basis with the Coast Guard. And so there are rules that have to be adhered to. And part of those rules are understanding the threat, understanding whether or not these individuals have posed that threat to the country, and then the methods that are used in taking them out. So can boats that are running drugs that would be destined for this country be taken out? Yeah, they can, and have been, to your point. But I think we also want to know that the legal justification is solid and sound, and that the facts that are being represented to Congress in terms of the justification all measure up. What has concerned me about the boat strikes in the Caribbean have been that the mission has been perhaps not as clearly defined by the administration. They say that they want to take out fentanyl that is coming into this country, and yet the trafficking, the drug trafficking, and it is drug trafficking that goes on out of Venezuela and through Trinidad Tobago area is not necessarily fentanyl at all, but primarily cocaine, and the vast majority of it is not bound for the United States, it's bound for the European market. So it causes one to ask the question, all right, where are you really taking this? Is this an effort towards regime change? No great secret that we're no fans of Maduro, but tell us your purpose. And then, as one who has access to classified briefings, and I have asked for and received, I wanted the specifics about the legal documentation or the legal authority for these strikes. It was made very clear that the authority was specific to vessels that are in international waters with no authority to do anything onshore. And now we have at least representations coming out of the White House that land is going to be easier, was the comment that was made. So I want to make sure that what we are doing as we try to eradicate the drugs, keep people safe in this country, that we still are operating within the rules of law.
Real quick on Maduro, have you seen anything or that suggested there's any truth to Maduro going to Qatar? You heard that, or?
I have not heard anything that I would believe to be a reasonable rumor. But put yourself in his shoes. He's got the President of the United States that has it out for him one way or another, and President Trump, if he's nothing else, has been brutally frank in that your time's running short here. So if I were him, I might be looking for a safe haven somewhere.
Ian. Most of my questions have been answered, but I guess can you just talk on the Biden era plan and the Arctic refuge that was recently
Yeah. Yeah. So I was the architect of Title II of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. Title II was exactly 5 pages long out of a multi-thousand-page bill, and it was opening up the coastal plain to limited exploration. We limited the surface occupancy area to 2,000 acres. We put in place provisions that recognized we set this area aside specifically for oil and gas exploration, but we recognize that this is an environmentally sensitive area. You have a need to balance the subsistence resources of people in the area with the ecosystem, and the fact that you have an extraordinary, maybe 7.7 billion barrels of oil in the North Slope in the 1002 area. So we put together in the law and placed it, it was signed into law by President Trump, and it allowed for 2 specific lease sales over the course of 7 years. It went forward in the Trump administration with the first lease sale, and then the Biden administration comes in and basically, I was going to say change the terms of the deal, but I think worse than that, they completely ignored the rule of law. They completely ignored the law that was put in place in 2017. So dial it forward to today. The Biden administration did further than that. They revised and issued a new record of decision on the 1002 area, and vastly limited the area that we had outlined in the law by about 76%. And so it was every effort that they could possibly make to choke off our opportunity to develop in the 1002. And so we said, no, we're going to follow the law. And when we had an opportunity to reject that Biden rule by this congressional resolution resolution of disapproval, we moved to do exactly that. So we effectively say that Biden plan is out, and we're going to be working to restore a level of balance, recognizing what Congress specifically designated the 1002 area for when that designation was made decades ago.
Yeah, Senators, just very quickly to kind of tail off of Jeff's question about the legality. You know, the Senate Intelligence Committee just met with the admiral who ordered that double strike on that boat. The reaction coming out from members of that committee has been a little bit split.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on the legality? And you just said, like, we want to make sure that our actions are legal. Do we have enough information right now to know whether our actions are legal?
This senator doesn't have sufficient information. You've summed it up neatly. I spoke to a colleague who is on the Intelligence Committee, a Republican, and I spoke to a colleague, a Democrat, who is on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Both of them were briefed by the general. Both of them saw the same video. They came, their recollection or their retelling of what they saw, vastly different. So the chairman and ranking member, and on the House side as well, have asked for more information, greater investigation. We want to understand it all. The meeting Thursday was the first time anyone in the Congress had been briefed by folks from the Pentagon on this. It is important that we fully understand the facts. Most of us, including me, first learned of this double tap from a Washington Post article. We should all know better than to rely on that as your primary source, right? But what we read there was pretty tough. It basically described 2 individuals that we're hanging on to a sunken craft, literally helpless, and so no longer a threat, a target. But I don't know that because I haven't seen it with my eyes. And then again, two gentlemen who I respect very much came away with a very different reaction to what they saw. I think we all deserve to have full information. And I think right now, we don't. I certainly don't.
Here we go, Jeff, and then Iris.
I'm just curious what your thoughts are on some of your colleagues of the video about illegal orders, Senator Kelly and Slotkin, and what kind of message that sends to the troops. I mean, who's to decide if something's illegal or not in the military? So do you agree with what they said? And if not, do you think it was okay what they said?
My takeaway from their message was, if you're in the military, your responsibility, your oath is you follow the commander-in-chief, but you also have an oath to the Constitution, right? Oath to your country, and you follow that. And most would say, I would never be given an illegal order, right? But an illegal order is not one that they are required to follow. I think that that is stating the obvious, that if it is an illegal order, you do not follow it. So I did not see their press conference, but I read their statement. I said, that's not an unreasonable thing to say. What I felt the president said was unreasonable. To call it treason, sedition, they needed to be hanged, or I don't think he used the word hung.
Punished by death.
Yes, punishable by death, thank you. I mean, pretty tough. And I said that was unacceptable. I felt that the president's comments were absolutely unacceptable, given what I felt was said, which was a reasonable statement that you should not have to follow an illegal order. So right now, what we're told is that that Senator Kelly may actually be recalled by the Pentagon so that he could be brought in for court-martial. I find that stunning and shocking, and an act of I think political retribution that is just beyond what I could imagine.
And Iris, we're going to close with.
I want to ask about something that you mentioned during the luncheon, and I've heard you say a few times during the course of this year, and that's that Congress is not exercising its oversight authority over the executive branch as it should. Mm-hmm. And I've heard you say that in the context of maybe military actions, but also spending as well. So I'm curious, now that we're heading towards a year into this second Trump administration, where you think things stand on that, and if you see any possibility of improvement in Congress's exercising of that authority.
I actually do see that there are more who are kind of weighing in and saying, well, wait a minute, that's actually our role here. One example is this matter of where we are with appropriations right now. We've got more work to do. We've got until January 30th to get these appropriations bills through. The administration is really fine with a year-long CR because that gives them basically more ability to spend how they will given the budget top lines. And more of my colleagues are recognizing that, well, wait a minute, it's actually our job. A CR is not the way to go because we effectively are giving up our role when it comes to the appropriations process, very significant under Article 1. I think we are seeing more questioning whether it is matters related to these vessel strikes in the Caribbean, more questioning regarding the issue of tariffs. I think you are seeing a more critical evaluation of some of the actions out of the Pentagon right now. We just saw this week a report that concluded that the way that Secretary Hegseth handled this communication on Signal actually put his men and women potentially at risk. And I'm seeing members of the Senate that are speaking up now and saying these types of instances are not good for the Congress, they're not good for the executive, they are a problem, and we've got a responsibility to speak out. So I think you are starting to see a little bit more of that, which I think is not only appropriate, in some instances overdue.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
And thank you for listening to this extra edition of Alaska's Political Pipeline. If you like what you listen to, consider rating our podcast and giving us a follow. We'll be back in your feeds next Monday, but in the meantime, please, take care.